against impunity and corruption in the judiciary.
Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
Simply put, they've listened to the comments of
facts.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
However, when you look at the issues that he's raising of corruption in the judiciary, it is evidently. It is, you can see there is an attack on his policy. For example, just even when he came in, anything that he has tried to bring forward, even I think Hustler Fund.
Yes.
Let's start even from Hustler Fund. People were already running into court and trying to say that this is not right. So we can have the judiciary being misused to fight the other arm of government. And don't forget, the judiciary is not over and above any other arm of government. The Constitution is the one that guides each and every one.
Edward, just before I cross over to Callistus, I mean, majority of Kenyans will listen to you this morning. They will say, fine. And you're right to say that.
Yes.
That even as we call all the other arms of government to account, there's something that is lacking in this round of the attack on the judiciary. And I say attack because if you look at what the CJ is saying, and I'll read it to you this morning, that we are ready to process any complaint against any judge or judicial officer who is implicated in corruption or any other act of misconduct. She's saying, yes, what you suspect might be right, but then we can't come here and then you start name calling. So come forth and say, you've seen this affordable housing agenda program that you essentially wanted to table in Parliament. A couple of people went and bribed this and this and these judges to rule against it. And this is the evidence that we have.
Exactly.
That is what they're saying, Eddie.
That is what the CJ is saying.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And the CJ can say that privately to the president. She doesn't also have to come and play with the media. You understand? She doesn't also have to come and make it a media circus. Right?
But the president made the media.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
However, what I'm trying to say is this. I, as a Kenyan, feel this is the moment, and I really don't like the matter of you saying attacking. Because even if we were to use attack, the government is under attack.
Yes. I'm using
every policy. Look, NHIF.
Yes.
What else? The NHIF, the housing,
the affordable housing agenda,
name it,
all of that.
Haiti, the Haiti issue, whereby Kenya has been given mandate by United Nations to go to Haiti, but the courts have then stopped that process.
Edward, shouldn't you be celebrating that? Shouldn't you be celebrating that?
Why?
Because this is an arm that is essentially.
But who is holding what the president is saying? Fair enough. Right? Criticism, as the president is giving criticism of the judiciary, it should be full-fold. It's not supposed to just be the executive and the legislative being held accountable. Because I can tell you, just today, I received a call this morning from a young man who went to the tribunal court for rent tribunal. And he claims that the judge was bribed or was given money. He claims that the landlord has so much power and has misused that power even through the judicial process. That is why I believe in Kenya what we need to have is a judicial observatory. Indeed, we need to now start observing the judiciary, not just from the executive point of view, but even the rulings that the magistrates make. Look at the jails today. They are full with petty offenders. Those judges don't care whether that person who they are sentenced into jail was caught with any crime. It seems like the judiciary is still stuck in the colonial days. In fact, I request that we have reforms in the judiciary and do away with the wigs that the white people brought to Africa, because that is an insult on the Mau Mau, and it's an insult on Kenyan people. We need to reform the judiciary. There is no two ways about it.
I'll be coming to you about it. There's something that is lacking in your argument this morning, is that even when we call out the other arms of government, every other person who's called them out is sort of tabled some evidence. We can see that corruption in these other arms of government. We can track it. And I will tell you, and just before I cross over, even the control of budget, she's come in and said that I cannot track this amount of money in that particular department. This amount of money has been misused. There is evidence to every part of that argument. But what is lacking
is evidence that has been provided. Yesterday, His Excellency Deputy the President said
yes.
that he will file a petition
Yes.
with the JSC and the judiciary against the judge who sentenced him,
yes.
or who didn't want to give him a fair administration of justice.
And by the way, we'll be coming to that case as well, because we have notes.
So the evidence
Yes.
is there, but the evidence will
Yes.
not be provided on a TV station.
Guess what?
It will be provided by the responsible people,
Yes.
like the Attorney General.
Does it?
Yeah, that's how government works.
I'll be coming back to you on that, because that's actually the next thing that we're going to look at this morning. Callistus, and Sheila, if you can, please, can you run that particular story all the way to when Kimani Ichung'wah spoke, because I want to start that conversation from there, that story number 3, in that particular gathering yesterday, so we can begin that particular conversation from there, because Kimani Ichung'wah is essentially saying that the judiciary is saying, yes, there is corruption, but is that what they're saying? Let's run it before I introduce then Calista so we can look at it. Let's play it again.
Many complaints against judicial officers. Na nafurahi Mheshimiwa Rais sababu sijasikia hata Chief Justice akikanusha ya kuwa kuna ufisadi kwa mahakama. Corruption is there, it is rife. Impunity is rife in the judiciary. Your Excellency, because all sovereign power you are exercising indirectly on behalf of the people, and it is the same sovereign power we exercise.
That's it. That's exactly where we are. Exactly. He's saying that even the CJ has not said that there is no corruption within the judiciary. But let's read again what she's saying down here. She's saying, look here, this is the second part of her sentiments, that the JSC, which is the body mandated by the Constitution to deal with matters of complaints, will only act on the basis of evidence and not on blank statements or allegations that have not been substantiated. Here's a question that we are asking this morning, and we are asking Kimani Ichung'wah as well. When you're saying that there's so many complaints against the judiciary, and the JSC is saying, look here, all we're hearing is allegations, but there's no evidence that have been tabled on the JSC that this particular judge that was seated on that judge bench, that was listening in that case for the affordable housing agenda, received this amount of money. Why wouldn't we send in Callistus? Is that what the judiciary is saying this morning? That yes.
Maybe if I start with my friend who is here.
Yes.
He has talked about accountability and transparent.
Yes.
And when we promulgated the 2010 Constitution, there were, before then, we used to have an executive which had a lot of power, which overruled the judiciary and the parliament.
Yes.
But right now, the Constitution provides for separation of powers between the arms of government.
That's it.
So when we talk about accountability, and you say, like I heard the president saying that we need to cooperate as arms of the government. We cooperate to serve people. That is not what the Constitution envisaged, because the Constitution envisaged a situation where accountability can be enforced, and accountability, it means judiciary for balance, checks and balances. It has to check the executive.
Yes.
Then the parliament also has to check executive, and judiciary can check the executive and the parliament, because parliament is a representative of people. It's not that they have gone there because they are professionally trained to represent the people. So they are there. The judiciary is there to protect the interest of a common person like
yes.
me.
Yes.
So the point of UDA brigades, led by His Excellency the President, trying they are conspiring to start attacking the judiciary so that they scare them away. When we talk about cases being taken to courts, why are these cases all over in the courts? It is because they are not doing the right thing. When we talk about hustler funds, for instance, hustler fund was implemented. It was just a declaration of the president, and they started working on it. They didn't embrace the how can we call it? Mm-hmm. Finance Act 2010, which provides for such a kind of arrangement. If you want to introduce something new, there are principles that you need to follow. Also, about Haiti, you can't just take police to Haiti. There is a process. You need to take that thing to Parliament, let the Parliament have their say. Then, after they have done, then judiciary, a commoner like me, I may go to court and seek to know, why are we taking our policemen to Haiti?
Yes.
Is it beneficial to the country? If it is not beneficial and the court find it necessary to stop it, or they must listen to us. They have been stopped so that whoever took the government to court can be able to be heard. Because if you have an evidence, you say we are not supposed to take police to Haiti, and you have reasons, and that maybe they are not. We don't have that provision in our laws, where the president can wake up and take. If it is army, it is acceptable, but the policemen, I don't know which provision that the president used to say now he's taking our policemen to Haiti, when we don't have enough policemen in the country. So we are saying he might be doing some things just to favor his interest. And what Kimani Ichung'wah is talking about is totally wrong. You cannot attack judiciary. You start saying that now there is corruption, they have not denied. How about the government? The president cannot say he has started now monitoring judiciary when himself has failed, has allowed the executive that are misusing public money. There is corruption in executive more than it is in judiciary.
Yes.
And the ratings are on the wall.
Yes. Just before I cross over to Edward, and Edward, I'm going to give you a chance to respond.
Yeah.
Just before I cross over to Edward, I'm going to read for you the last part of.
However, he's not giving correct information.
But I will give you the right
Because
response.
the process for Haiti was followed. They went to Parliament.
That's there.
And they were supposed to be deployed.
But they were taken to court.
No, listen. So you have to rephrase, because you're trying to make out that the president wakes up in the morning and just decides. The United Nations Security Council, right, came up with a resolution that it's not just Kenya, by the way. There are several countries, including Senegal, including Antigua, including Jamaica. You understand?
Yes.
The Caribbean countries. So this is a universal humanitarian requirement.
Yes.
Because Haiti is suffering. Okay? Kenya is known as the peacekeeper of the world. So I don't know which country you've been living in, because we've been deploying, we've been deploying peacekeepers. Listen, peacekeepers, and this time round there is not a war where we are taking, like when we have Sierra Leone or Somalia. The issue with Haiti is issue of law and order. Sawa sawa. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with gangs. Okay? There is a reason why Kenya, and amongst other nations, only that Kenya is leading in that mission. So therefore, it is not His Excellency the President Ruto who woke up and said that we're going to Haiti. It is a mandate that was given by the United Nations. So therefore, stop lying to Kenyans.
Now,
be honest.
Let me
and then
tell you.
secondly, hold on. Secondly, the people who keep going to court are the same people, not the Mwananchi. You know, you've just made a Flavius claim that it's the Mwananchi holding the government accountable.
Yes.
It is not the Mwananchi. It is hired people who have connections and networks in the court, and they're given money. By the way, just look at all the time who go to the Human Rights Division Court at the High Court. All these cases are there, isn't it?
Yes.
And these issues affecting the government, like you said, Hustler Fund. Let me tell you, the law allows Parliament Act. Wait, sir. Parliament Act allows the government to implement its policy and programs, and thereafter to seek regularization with the law. So therefore, there was no breach when the president started the Hustler Fund, because the law allowed him, and he went back to Parliament. Hold on, don't mislead Kenyans. He went back to Parliament, and that's why Hustler Fund today is ingrained in law. So therefore, it's very easy, and I know people like you, probably you've been hired to come here. People like you are the ones who go lying to Kenyans and misguiding Kenyans against the government, because we know there's an anti-government rhetoric. Everybody is blaming Ruto for the problems of Kenya since 1963. But what Ruto as a sober president is trying to say to Kenyans, let us also have a discussion. Indeed, there's corruption.
Yes.
And indeed, there's corruption even in executive.
That's it.
But let us have now this discussion of corruption, misconduct, and judiciary miscarriage.
That's it. Edward,
in the
yes.
judiciary.
Edward,
No,
Edward,
let's not hide. Wait, let's not hide
Yes.
our faces in the sand
That's it.
because we
Yes.
just want to attack William Ruto and his policy.
Edward, the question was,
Thank you.
the question was that indeed, when we are celebrating a constitution that envisions the independence of those three arms of
Exactly,
government,
yes.
do you feel now there is independence here, now that the executive is blatantly blaming the judiciary for the failure of the implementation of their projects, when the judiciary knows very well, Edward, if we are going to follow what the law states, and that's what she's saying here, just a comment saying that any other person today,
Yes.
be it you, be it Callistus, be it Simba,
Yes.
if you feel that you don't like whatever direction the government is taking, come to court, table your
I
evidence.
don't want to
We're
cut
gonna
you.
listen to
JSC,
it. Yes.
and I can assure you,
Yes.
it's not just JSC, there's the ombudsman.
Yes.
Today, from here, let us go to the JSC and look at their files.
That's it.
Look at how many complaints from Kenyans against corruption and judicial officers are JSC and the ombudsman. Wait,
Edward,
wait.
Edward, I hear
And
you.
nothing
I
is
hear you.
done. Nothing is being done.
For the betterment
so
of-
what the
yes.
president is saying, let
Yes.
us have this debate.
That's it.
Let us look at the judiciary with a microscope.
That's it. Edward,
Yeah.
Edward, and I hear you.
Yes.
I hear you. Are you then conforming, Callistus? But let me bring you into this conversation then. You say, Edward, whatever you're saying is the JSC essentially has complaints about
Millions,
judges.
hundreds.
Fine.
Yes.
So
What have they done?
So I will
Can
say-
the head of the judiciary,
Yes.
who is Kome, Justice
Yes.
Kome,
Yes.
give us a report
That's
today on what they have done on miscarriage of justice, misconduct of
Yes.
judicial officers? How many judicial officers has she?
It may,
Look,
yeah,
how
yes.
many has she sacked?
Are we,
How many have
Yes.
been put on a tribunal?
That's it. But
Let her tell us.
She doesn't have that power to sack
She
any
has
judicial
the power. Why is she telling us to report to
Just hold on,
JSC? Look
yes.
again, contradiction.
Just hold on, just hold on, Edward.
Look again, contradiction. She
Callistus,
doesn't have the power.
For the betterment of
Okay.
this conversation this morning,
Yes.
Edward, and I like where we're getting, because we really want to get to just what the law envisions this to be. So are we then saying that the CG Kome is lying to Kenyans when she comes in and says that all that I've seen is name calling? I do not have evidence tabled against particular judges that I can look to. Callistus is what we're saying this morning, that she's
Let me
lying.
tell you.
Exactly. So
we
she.
cannot
Yes.
say, you can't tell me that when people are taking cases to court,
Yes.
that is wrong. You can't accuse judiciary because they are hearing cases.
Nobody's
That is what the
accusing
president. That is
judiciary.
what the
Yes.
president is doing, because you cannot say people are frustrating government agenda.
Yes.
We have been
And
in court
progress.
since independence.
Yes.
We have had, we had Jomo Kenyatta. He was taken to court to some point. Moi was taken to court to some point. Uhuru Kenyatta has faced a lot of challenge with the cases in the court.
Does it?
And he handled it professionally. William Ruto need to lead the country professionally. He need to
I think-
respect the constitution.
Yes.
He need
I-
also to respect
That's it.
the independence of judiciary,
Yes.
independence of
You know,
parliament. Because
why-
now parliament is in bed with
Why,
Edward,
why lie? Why lie?
Edward,
And that is the
Edward,
reason why
yeah,
William
yes.
Ruto
At
is
Uhuru
in
Kenyatta
parliament.
followed
Just-
the law.
just
He's the
hold
one
on,
president that
Edward,
that
yes.
went against court orders.
And that
It
is
there.
and
You
that is
see,
in
my
public
brother.
record. Yes,
No,
Edward,
brother,
Edward,
brother.
that is in public record.
No,
by
what
the
I'm
way.
saying,
yes,
if
that-
he
that
has
is in
been
public
sent by
record.
the opposition
Yes.
to
No,
come here and praise the
Just-
leaders like
yes.
Uhuru
Let's
Kenyatta, who
give it-
defied the
But you see-
constitution.
You see, Uhuru
Yes,
Kenyatta-
Edward, that's in public record by the way. I'm
Yes.
going to give you a chance again
It's
to
in
come
public
back and-
record, so
and-
let
and
him not
defend on
lie.
that.
Uhuru
Yes,
Kenyatta-
yes, Callistus, clear your point.
I'm saying
Yes.
Uhuru Kenyatta did
Yes.
not started this kind of attacks to judiciary.
Yes.
He did not organize politicians to visit any church. and
Aha.
start
He
attacking
said we will revisit.
Yes, yes.
Remember,
And he
my
did.
brother,
Yes, yes.
my brother,
Edward,
please,
Edward,
no.
Edward, yes,
Bro,
I'm going to
you
give you
know,
that chance.
if
yes.
you're going to give him a chance
That's
to
it.
lie,
That's it. No,
I'm
I'm
not
going to
lying.
give you
when
that
His
chance.
Excellency
I'm going to
the
give you that
President,
chance.
let me
And
give
by the
this
way,
point.
yes.
When His Excellency is the President, you don't
Yes.
have to take this guy on. Because when the Excellency the
Yes.
President, Uhuru Kenyatta, his election was declared null and void, He actually threatened, wait, he said we will revisit. And in fact,
Yes.
I don't know why this brother has forgotten, wait, hold on. I don't know why this brother has forgotten very fast. Those names of the Court of Appeal judges that Uhuru himself refused to appoint against a court order. It is William Samoei Ruto who appointed those judges. His first executive order was the appointment of those judges. So my brother, kama umetumwa na Uhuru ni sawa.
We're going to come back to that.
Now we know.
The intention was, the intention of appointing those judges, William Ruto expected them to be defending him in a
No, brother.
What are you talking about?
You're being cheap
because
now.
You cannot say
that is being cheap. You lie and then you continue to lie.
We're going to give. I'm going to come to you.
Yeah, but you see, you're giving him enough time to lie to Kenyans.
I'm going to come back to you on that.
No.
And by the way, part of notes are the ones that we're going to look at this morning, because we do have the history of this particular project we're talking about here. We do have, I would like us to refer just how President Uhuru Kenyatta essentially dealt with the judiciary when they ruled against this particular project, as opposed to going to the nitty-gritties of how each president just behaved against the judiciary. Edward, Callistus, can you clear your point, please? Because I want us to look at the affordable housing agenda specifically.
What I'm trying to say, let us respect the judiciary.
Yes.
Let us respect the parliament. We all Kenyans know that the parliament is in bed with the executive. That's why the president is doing a lot of things against the law, and is using that parliament, the same parliament, to rubber stamp. And the judiciary has been the only institution that has stand against this kind of impunity that the UTA government is trying to, the Kenya Kwanza regime, they are trying to do. So we need to support the judiciary. The CJ, what she talked about is, it makes sense. Yes. It makes sense. Because you cannot just say there is corruption in judiciary. Who is corrupt and what evidence do you have? Does it mean that now the president, with all the intelligence and everything, he has the capacity that he has as the head of state, cannot get evidence and take somebody to court?
Does that? But I'm going to come back to you, Edward, on this, just so that we remain objective in this particular conversation this morning.
The judicial matter.
That's it. Especially on government agenda implementation.
Yes.
Edward,
and you see,
Edward, are you cognizant of the fact that indeed that even as the courts keep on declaring part of this agenda unconstitutional, they're still giving the government time to go back and correct their books so that they can be in line with the law?
I agree.
Just hold on. When you look at the affordable housing agenda, the courts even made one of the most, you will say, contentious rulings that we've ever seen. They declared it unconstitutional under the housing levy, but what majority of analysts and advocates were talking about, and lawyers, is why you would declare something unconstitutional and still give the government time to still continue implementing it as they relocate. Hold on. When you look at the sheaf, they didn't essentially say stop the implementation. They said part of that law is unconstitutional. Please go back, revisit before you can come back and continue implementing it. That even as we sit here and talk about the judiciary essentially being deemed as one that is affecting the implementation of the government agenda, they are strictly within the confines of the law. That if you look at the rulings that they've made on this particular agenda, they're essentially saying, according to the Constitution, this and this and this is unconstitutional. Please go back and revisit. They are not essentially saying, remove it. Then why the attack? Why are we all of a sudden, as the government, now as the executive, looking at the judiciary and saying, oh, this is our problem? Why can't we correct it?
As the matter is being corrected, as you've said, the rulings that came out, what we're saying is this, or what is happening is this: we need to have a judicial accountability.
Why, Edward?
Debate.
Why?
Hold on.
Why now?
Don't ask why now. When that person took the matter to court, he didn't consult you, did he? You know, the people who take these matters to court, they don't consult you. So you cannot ask, hold on, let's wait. Kindly, give me time. I don't want this pressure. Let me answer you now, because I can see
Edward, yes.
it's like you two now working together.
No.
You know, I look like I'm in government and you're in opposition.
Edward, just bringing out the facts.
Let me give you an opportunity to speak.
Exactly.
You understand? What I'm saying is the rulings have been made.
Yes.
And indeed, the judiciary also has to understand the policy government is implementing is not for William Ruto. It's for the people of Kenya. And he's mandated to do that. Therefore, the judiciary also has to be cognizant that it cannot be making rulings that are really going to bring the progress and the betterment of Kenya moving forward. Like, for example, the housing issue. The president himself has said that it's already employing 120,000 young people in this country. And he's set to employ over, I think, 500,000 people. Those are Kenyans who need jobs. You understand? Those are Kenyans who are suffering. Why is it that anything that is going to bring progress, people run to court and they go to specific judges, right? And all the government is saying, we need to have a judicial discourse, a judicial debate. You cannot tell me why now. It is now. We need to have it now. We need to look at the judiciary and their conduct. There is so much miscarriage of justice in this country. And it's not about just government mentioning it. We're saying even mwananchi wa kawaida. Every day, land grabbers are grabbing land from innocent people and running to those courts, right? It is there.
But
hold on, you're not the person who is running the show. Just hold on. It is there. So we need to have this discussion, and that is what democracy pertains. Democracy pertains equity. You cannot, like since he came here, he's been criticizing government. And you can clearly show, it clearly shows you what side of the wing he is. He's in the opposition because he's lying openly by even trying to say Uhuru Kenyatta followed the court orders. Uhuru Kenyatta has been the most impugned president in the history of Kenya. It is there and it is known. But he's here trying to lie to mwananchi so that it can favor the opposition. It's easy to fight the government and forget the facts. Everything that His Excellency William Samoei Ruto is doing is for the betterment of mwananchi. And even him has a right, like everybody else. Raila Odinga has a right. He can come up tomorrow and say, we're going to start having this discussion and this debate. Why is it now that the president is bringing this discussion and this debate, then it becomes an issue? Allow the debate to go on.
Yes.
Allow us to hold accountable the judiciary and call it off like they normally call off every other day. Every other day, the government executive is being called off and being held accountable. The judiciary is not above the law. It is not above the law. And the judiciary is run by judicial officers who are Kenyans like you. And by the way, they are not even elected. They are appointed. So even the mwananchi has no direct influence on who becomes a judge or who doesn't become a judge. But he has direct influence to who becomes a member of parliament, to who becomes an MP. And it is very irregular for this man to say, the gentleman next to me, that the government is in bed with parliament. That is a big lie. Government has majority. So you expect government to sit down with you, your opposition? No. Government will sit down with the majority side so that every policy that government wants to put in place is put in place. So therefore, we are seeking Kenyans, all Kenyans, indeed take on that challenge that Kome has given you. Bring these cases out to the media. Line up here at Lookuptv. Look, give them the evidence of miscarriage of justice. Yeah? Yes. Kenyans are not happy with the conduct of the JSC. We have not had any case or any tribunal that has been set up by the JSC against any judge. And I can assure you today, if you were to go to the files of complaints at the judiciary, you will be shocked and surprised. And in fact, it's like the judiciary inafinya mwananchi wa kawaida. Yes. Because mwananchi wa kawaida is the one who is suffering most by when we have corrupt judges who are making judgments against mwananchi.
Yes, here's the thing. But just Edward, also for the sake of this conversation as well, I mean, if we're going to say that JSC has essentially never come up when they have evidence against a judge, essentially to send him home. We do know the former case of Judge Shitembe, isn't it?
Let's say this. We know that is a person who took that case to court. Let's say it's an individual who took that. But what I'm saying, JSC doesn't have to wait for me. doesn't have to wait for the president. It has its own mechanisms. Yes, isn't it? To audit the rulings of the judges.
Yes.
But we have not seen a self-initiated
Yes.
initiated process by JSC to hold accountable the judges.
That's Callistus, I'm going to come back to you. Callistus, I'm going to give Edward 1 minute as well. And gentlemen, but just for the sake of this conversation,
Yes.
I would like us to stick to just how the president is responding to the court rulings that are essentially coming on his housing agenda. That's on his agenda. Do you know that even as we speak about this particular case right here, it is, the courts have said on January 26th, the decision they're going to make is whether indeed they want to temporarily suspend the housing levy, which essentially forms the back end of the housing agenda. And if you saw towards the end of last year when they sat on that particular case, in fact, the government came back and amended it, and they said that now we're bringing in an amendment that is essentially going to see every Kenyan contribute to the agenda, because majority of Kenyans, by the way, who form even the employment associations in the country, said we do not understand why only our employees have to contribute to the housing agenda. If it's an agenda for the country, then every other person should be essentially contributing, just like the universal health care.
Yes.
Which essentially forms an argument for majority of employers in this country. And if you did see the poll that was released last year, I just can't put a finger on it, I'm gonna pull it up. Majority of employers in the country were against the housing levy.
Yes.
That is true. So any other Kenyan, be it who goes to Kenyan, be it Okiya Mtata or any other Kenyan who goes to court, essentially speaks for majority of Kenyans in that.
Not
So
really.
just hold on, Edward. The question becomes this then, that at a time when we are questioning the conduct of government in its implementation agenda, instead of talking about how they can correct the housing agenda, instead of talking about how we can make it more inclusive, proper consultations now, even within the employment associations in the country, we are talking about just one part of it, the judiciary.
Exactly. You see, the thing is, these matters that have gone to court
have
been politicized. Let me first tell you something. Why even the president is standing up.
1 minute before I cross
1 minute. Yes. These matters have been politicized. You've had Okiya Mtata. He's a politician. He's known to be a politician who takes matters to court. He's a professional court caser. Like, he's a person who, I don't know whether that's how he earns his living or whether that's what he does, right? But I'm not attacking him as an individual. I'm just saying the character of him, right? And therefore, even the president tried to say, come, let's discuss Okiya privately. Let's see what we can make. Because it's not all Kenyans. Secondly, even during the former regime, right, the housing matter, Raila Odinga was one of the people talking about the levy. He championed for that, and it didn't go through. Right? So we know very well Kenya is constrained in finance, in money, fiscal. You know, we don't have the money. So we have to look for the money through levy, tax, and whatever. And that's a fact. Right? So therefore, he's saying for majority of Kenyans, it is a right within that same constitution for government to enable Kenyans or provide housing for Kenyans. Shelter, isn't it? It's a right in the constitution. Therefore, William Ruto in his party is saying, those people who have at least something, can you contribute to this kitty so that we can construct these houses for those who do not have? For those who live in deplorable, dignity. Kenyans need to have dignity. When you live in a shack, when you live in a house, mabati ya matope, you don't have a house.
Yes. And
all you need is a president like Ruto who cares about you. But you know very well there is no money. William Ruto, he'll not give his money. He has to find the money somewhere. So for the employers, they have their right, but at the same time, they have to consider the majority of Kenyans are poor and they lack shelter. And therefore, the mandate given by the people to the president is that give us shelter, give us food, give us health, and that's all he's trying to do.
In this particular conversation for what we're seeing now is becoming sort of a tug of war between the judiciary and the executive, because trust me, even gentlemen, as we speak about this particular case, it's not that the judiciary is not watching these conversations that are coming from the executive. They are watching and they listen. And the judiciary essentially is the end part of any litigation in a country, and we do know that very well. That's why we hold them up there. We expect them to operate with that esteem and conduct
And
that has been
dignity.
bestowed with them, and dignity that has been bestowed with them by the Constitution, because they are the end process. So when we're sitting here and saying that we do not like how they are conducting themselves, and they're listening, and then they're asking the question, where? How should the president and the executive be talking about this particular issue here today? Should we be seeing them filing motions at the JSC against particular judges that they do know very well?
You see, it's
are
happening.
Condemning
this
agenda?
week.
Is that not where the conversation should be?
It's
But
Callista's
I'm
done.
saying,
Yes.
when I've had many of courts ruling,
Yes.
and I've never had any judge making ruling without basing on any law.
Yes.
They normally based on law, they normally based on the Constitution of Kenya.
Does it?
So those people who are complaining against them, they need to say they have, this ruling was done with the dot of disregard to this law. But you cannot just say you make roadside declaration and you start attacking judiciary, that there is corruption in judiciary. What we are saying, allow judiciary to work. Allow them to check you, because even the house levy you embossed on people, it was unconstitutional, because you need to do public participation based on the law. Public participation need to be done, and it's supposed to be passed by the Parliament of Kenya. And this Parliament, which I have said is a dysfunctional Parliament,
It was passed.
which is in bed with the executive. And the Constitution did not envisage a situation where executive can check judiciary. But there is a way judiciary can check both executive and the Parliament. And the Kenyans are with the judiciary. We are standing with judiciary because judiciary has done justice to us. It is judiciary what gave William Ruto this power that he has, because we had a contested, a highly contested petition, presidential petition.
Yes.
And he was declared a winner by this same judiciary that is attacking. So let him also try to embrace the law. He needs to also look at the things that he is doing. Is he putting the interests of the country ahead, or is he just doing it for the sake of some other people to make money? Because there's no Kenya, there is no single Kenya who is living in the forest. All Kenyans are living in the house. So we not say, let nobody lie to you that the country is needing the
homeless people.
Yes.
No,
Is he
we are not
saying
homeless.
just clear?
No.
Just clear.
Homeless,
Yes,
but
we
we
have
are saying
seconds before we turn on break.
priority,
Yes.
because Kenyans are looking at our economy is not doing good. So why are you putting a lot of money in housing? And yet we are jobless. After you have constructed those beautiful houses, who is going to live in those houses when we are unemployed? So we are saying, put the money in the right investment.
Yes.
We need to revive industries. We need to put the investment.
Yeah.
And all those things can happen when the president is doing the right thing and is following the law. You cannot allow the executive to loot public money. Then you start attacking the judiciary.
Yes.
All these cases that are in court, they are there because somebody did not follow the law.
Yes.
So we are asking the president, and we are not even the president, we are asking everybody, including the Parliament. They have failed because that Parliament, when we introduced CDF, now our MPs became like they are doing the same thing with the executive. They are even more corrupt than the executive. So we are saying the country can only be saved if we have got a functional judiciary.
Yes.
And what is happening in Kenya now is an evidence of functional judiciary, because the judiciary is standing against all the impunity, all the illegal things being done by the government. And when we say we want to stop people, or we want to champion, like my friend has said, the president is implementing government policy. You cannot implement government policies going against the Constitution of Kenya. Because all of us, we swore to defend the Constitution. And it's that the same Constitution that gave him power to rule the country. So you cannot use the Constitution partially, that you are using that Constitution to control the country. At the same time, you use the same you don't want that Constitution to hold you accountable. So you cannot run away from accountability on the basis of attacking the other arm of government. And the other thing we are saying,
yes,
as the people, because my friend has said that we are speaking from, I'm speaking as somebody
individual
from the opposition. I'm not here just to fight the government, but I have not seen anything good that this government has done to the people. Looking at all the promises that he promised Kenyans, including Mutu Apota, Mama Mboka, all those, they have not gotten anything from this government. And that is the reason why many people are going to court, because they don't trust him. And the other thing, when he said that this government will be of Mama Mboka, Mutu Apota, and when you look at the petrol in East Africa, we are leading, because the president
just went down by 5 shillings.
yes.
In 2 weeks, it's gone down by 10 shillings. They're still complaining.
That's the point why, when you look at him, when you compare him with the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, we say Uhuru Kenyatta was a good person, because Uhuru Kenyatta did not...
William Ruto has only been there 1 year. Uhuru Kenyatta was there 10 years. And we are, hey.
And this one has toppled from 8% to 16%.
That is where it was before, when Uhuru Kenyatta came.
When he complained, look at the Mombasa Expressway. This expressway.
Yes.
He said...
We're not discussing. We're going off the debate now. We're talking about election. We're going back to election promises.
I just want us to break. Yes.
But we're going back to election.
We're
going back to.
Let him clear that. Let him clear that.
We're getting off the judiciary discussion.
That he will not charge for the people to pass on that expressway. But right now, it's like they have made that road now to be commercially not viable, because you cannot use that road to do business, because the expense has been also almost double of what it used to pay. I used to pay 180 to Shekimau.
Yes.
Right now we are paying 400 to 500. So it means he has doubled even the usage of that road. So what we are saying, the president has lied to us, and he continue attacking the judiciary and doing illegality.
Yes.
That
just
is the reason why
we've gone from how many times are you going to clear his thought?
Yes.
He has reduced to Komutata.
Edward,
You have reduced to Komutata.
Yes.
This debate is not going
15
forward.
seconds here.
Myself, I went to court. We challenged that Hazola fund.
Yes.
It's not only Momtata. So you cannot say we are a commercial
to go to court.
That's it. Gentlemen, I want us to take a tiny break. Once we come back, Edward,
but please,
yes,
be fair in how you distribute, how we talk. Because honestly, if we keep going like this,
it's quite far. Yeah.
We're discussing about the judiciary.
It's Edward, all this, by the way, even the elections have been taken to court, by the way. So when somebody touches on the elections, that's still part of the judiciary process, isn't it? All right. Now, once we come back, we keep on with this discussion right here at Lookuptv. The question then is that Rigathi Gachagua has also spoken, and the question that we're going to answer is the timeliness of what he wants to do. Now remember, it was also one of those casualties of the judiciary when they ruled about his 200 million shillings fortune, which they said were proceeds of corruption. That particular case just ended, but Rigathi Gachagua said, I'm going back. That particular judge who ruled that these were proceeds of corruption, I want him out. Once we come back, the question is it a fight of the judiciary versus the executive, or just the judiciary doing its work? Right here on Lookuptv.
Tere, mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani wani vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe. Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time, hata angalia barabara. Mamiseni ndio ama tusimame. Wewe dereva wewe, mwaka iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 1000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, tamtamka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
What about mambo fantastic if not scholastic? Chota kuchota na Hatia Supermarket imerudi. Ukifanya tu shopping ya shilingi 1000, wewe unaingia kwa promotion ya chota kuchota na Hatia Supermarket. Watu wanaendelea kushinda ndani ya Hatia Supermarket.
Ni yangu.
Mbona tata? Kitoko. Wewe na umeshinda
nini? Yote. Hamsa. Uaga na lala.
Karibu ndani ya Hatia Supermarket uweze kuchota kwa wingi kabisa. Watu wanasema nini? Nakwambia kwamba chota kuchota. Unangoja nini?
Magari 7 za kushindaniwa, TV, fridge, microwave, shopping vouchers, school fees vouchers, instant prizes na zawadi zingine kemkem. Chota kuchota imethaminiwa na Hetia's Oven Fresh Bakery, Gigabyte, Mount Kenya Milk, Clover's Food Products, Velvet, Magic Drink, Pwani Oil, Arenco, Fruit Juice, Masterchef, Toilex, Coolsip, Mika, Wash Ultra, Philos, Prestol, Nivea, My Choice, Ushindi, Fresh Fry, Arimis Jelly, Cabernet Water, Dettol, Ketepa, Meta, Glucose, Coca-Cola, Rosy Tissue, Big Giant, Elbins, Unilever, Fresh, Unga wa Dola, Blue Band na Pasta Star. Shindano la chota kuchota linaanza tarehe 1 Disemba hadi tarehe 10 Februari mwaka 2024.
Hatia Supermarket, a world of choice.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution or a university and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Drift. We are still with Edward and Callistas, really trying to make sense of the executive's view of the judiciary. They are speaking, and the LSK went out and said the president is got to be stopped. So hopefully then, you would like to think that that message is home. With questions about the timeliness of this speak that we're seeing now from the executive, when they look at the judiciary. One man was also speaking this weekend, is one DP Rigathi Gachagua, who said, yeah, even me right now, I mean, I've got an issue with the judiciary. There's a judge who ruled that my fortune, that was a big case that we did here just before they came into power, that those were proceeds of corruption. Now that case was thrown out for lack of evidence. I'm back at it. I want that judge to be taken out. Let's listen in, come back, and then make sense of that. The question that I'm asking is the timeliness of this. Let's look at it.
This coming week at 2:15, I'll personally present a petition before Lady Chief Justice Martha Koome against Justice Esther Maina for her removal from the judiciary for misconduct and corruption. Mimi mwenyewe ndio nitaongoza because sasa unajua sasa si ametuuliza, sasa tuko tayari, mimi ndio nitaongoza kwa executive. Huyo judge through corruption declared my hard-earned wealth proceeds of crime without giving me an opportunity to be heard. Against the rules of evidence, where he who alleges must prove, we made an application to cross-examine the investigator, akakataa kwa sababu anajua there is no case.
Let's make sense of that as well, even as we continue to make sense of the judiciary versus the government's development agenda. Now, let me take you back to a story that we did when this particular case was thrown out. And on our website, that's on www.lookuptv.co.ke. The story was essentially about how the anti-corruption court threw out a 7.3 billion corruption case against Gachagua. And this is exactly what they said on it. And I'll read it to you. Now, trial magistrate, that is Victor Wakumile, faulted the DPP for pressing charges on Gachagua and his 9 co-accused without conducting conclusive investigations. They continue. He said that the Office of the DPP and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, should work independently to ensure that public confidence is gained in the administration of justice. He consequently ordered that the cash bail of the DP of 12 million shillings and his passport be returned to him, as well as his co-accused. Now, the case was thrown out under Section 87A of Criminal Procedure Code. Now, Judge Wakumile further proposed the formation of the Office of the Pre-Trial Judge to review DCI files to verify evidence before DPP prefers to press charges. Now, let's get it clear that this particular case essentially came from the DCI. That indeed it is, and I want you to listen to this particular advisory here from the DPP. Now I'm going to listen to it again. Judge Wakumile further proposed the formation of the Office of Pre-Trial Judge to review DCI files to verify evidence before DPP prefers charges. Now go back a bit here and say, he stated that the Office of the DPP and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, should work independently to ensure that public confidence is gained in the administration of justice. But Edward, even as he speaks about this particular case, it is the judiciary that further ruled on this particular case. In fact, went back and looked at how the DCI had done this particular investigations and said,
Indeed.
It doesn't look like there's much evidence into this particular case. So we do advise you have a pre-trial judge before this particular case comes to court.
Yes.
So the judiciary made a ruling on it.
Thank you.
It's the judiciary that exonerated DP Rigathi Gachagua.
Now, let's bring it back to his context.
Yes,
and that's why you played it.
Yes, I did.
Listening keenly, you talked about Esther Minor, judge, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Saying that he was not given the opportunity in the court. You say the court is independent.
Does it?
The court, the judge is not being influenced by DCI, DPP, or anybody.
Yes.
So when you go to court, you as the accused are also allowed, right? Time to defend yourself. What he's saying, that judge never gave him the opportunity, because what now the judge who you just mentioned, the justice who now threw out the case, yes, this is what Gashagua's lawyers were saying, that the DPP and the DCI did not have the evidence, and the procedure of which they took him to court was quasi-judicial. It wasn't right. It wasn't, the procedures weren't followed, if you had what the judge said. So this is what he's saying. So therefore, if a judge never gave opportunity of a fair trial, right, or a fair hearing to DP Gachagua, then that judge should be held accountable, because it is her ruling that allowed the DCI and the DPP to continue on with the case. And even he was going to be charged, he was going to be jailed, according to what they were saying, if you followed up this case. Until this judge went through the files, you had the judge said, going through the files and seeing the anomalies. Therefore, the DP is right in his position to point out that particular judge. And why he's saying that is because Kome, the Chief Justice, said, if you have evidence of misconduct miscarriage of justice and corruption, bring it forward.
Does it?
So what's the problem with the DP now showing, hold on,
Yes, Callistus, I'll come to you.
even though the anomaly was rectified by that justice who threw out the case, but still Esther Minor, the justice, has never been held accountable for her conduct as a judicial officer.
Does it? Edward, just for clarity of purpose in this particular conversation, that this particular case essentially is not a misgiving of the judiciary. Because when it comes to checks and balances within the judiciary,
you're not getting
just hold on, Edward, I'm getting it.
You see, the judiciary is, hold on, the judiciary is not the building.
Does it?
The judiciary is the judicial officers.
That's what I'm
and
saying,
the system
Edward,
there.
quite clear, sir.
He's
Quite clear.
pointing out at a judge. So you cannot say the judiciary has no misgivings.
Quite clear.
It's the judges within the judiciary who officiate the function.
Quite clear that we were waiting for the conclusion of this case, isn't it?
Yes.
And in the trial process, that's when you look at the files of evidence that has come from the DCI. Remember, this is a case that comes from the DCI's office, isn't it?
But what he's saying, why didn't this judge, hold on, this judge had the opportunity before the new judge took the case. You understand? That's where the matter is. She had the opportunity to point out, the DCI and the DPP, but she failed. Yes.
But then in the process of this case, now we have a judge within the judiciary as well
who rectified
this file.
Who rectified it. However, even though he rectified it, the same judge could be doing the same thing to another Kenyan. That's what DP is saying.
Be it may, Edward, that this is a case that has been rectified under the judiciary, isn't it? Does it? That
you see, the president is not saying you're getting it wrong.
Edward,
the president is not saying all judicial officers
are
corrupt.
And we get you on that, and I get you on that. Can we say that the judicial process has taken effect in this particular case, Edward?
The judicial process may have taken effect because somebody saw injustice. And somebody saw.
But that's part of the judicial process, Edward.
Where the judiciary has done right, we commend them.
It?
But where they're doing wrong, they have to also be pointed
and are you also aware that there's even cases of appeal that you can appeal a court ruling? Is that not given within the judicial process?
You see, we're not saying that all the judges in Kenya are bad or rotten. But what we are saying, we need to now have this debate. We need to scrutinize, and we are not saying Martha Koome. We're not saying Martha Koome is corrupt. What we are saying, like you said, and I do agree with you, His Excellency. You know, people, you say there's corruption in executive. You're not saying the president is corrupt. You're saying the people in his government are corrupt. So is people saying in the judiciary, we're not saying Martha Koome is corrupt. We are saying you have judicial officers who are corrupt. And that's why even me as an individual, I will start going around this country, mobilizing people who have had miscarriage of justice and misconduct of judges, because we need to have this discussion,
which is totally fine,
so that we can guide these people. Because even when the Justice Koome comes up and says write a letter or write a petition, these Kenyans, poor Kenyans, don't know how to do it. So we should have even teachings, like they should have trainings for people, so that people can know when the case goes against you in this way because a judge was bribed, what do you do?
Edward, there's a question that I really want you to answer me, just in a matter of seconds before I cross over to Callistus.
Thank you.
Do you agree that this is a case that was done and dusted within the judicial process in the country, and Rigathi Gachagua was satisfied with how it ended?
However, done and dusted, but let's go with reality. The CJ has said officially that executive, if you have evidence of misconduct, miscarriage of justice, corruption, bring it forward. So we should be clapping hands for the DP and are waiting to see. You see, you guys, in 1 second, 1 minute, you're saying, give us evidence. When it's been provided, now you start saying the process was over.
That's it.
So, and I'm telling you, I am sure this week you will see a lot of evidence.
Just on that particular note, Callistus, but just to make sense of this particular issue, the timeliness now of this attack that we've seen from one Rigathi Gachagua, his foot soldiers, the likes of Kimani Ichung'wah, who were telling the president, you exercise your powers, your sovereign power in this country. Just make sure that everything is correct. The timeliness of this particular attack. All of a sudden, we had to wait until the president started complaining about the implementation of his agenda when the courts made a ruling, by the way. And I will tell you where it started from. It's when the courts refused to lift the conservatory orders that wanted to stop the implementation of the housing levy. That's when somebody felt, but I can't go like this. That's when it started. So you will have imagined that this particular issue for Rigathi Gachagua, immediately his case was completed, done and dusted, he would have gone to the JSC and filed a case against that particular judge. But it did not. It has just begun now. So sustain it. That's what I'm saying. Is this a political move? Is this a politics? Are we playing politics with the judiciary? And is that the danger of this particular issue?
Elisha, let me tell you. Anytime you hear executive complaining about judiciary, know that they are being stopped due to something. Now they might be trying to do something that is illegal. So whenever you hear somebody who is either the president or the deputy making such a kind of allocation, know that he is doing it because he has been stopped to do something. And we are saying, why is it that whatever you are trying to do, judiciary is being, the people are running to court and they are stopping you? It is because you are doing illegal things. What now Gachagua is discussing, that is one of the useless debates we have ever had since they started this kind of talks. Because you cannot say now you are running to court to prove something because you are at some point you did not get the justice and now you are using this as an evidence.
Yes.
When you are on power. That is wrong. And we want to warn them because we are spending a lot of time discussing useless debates. We have discussed about how we should be discussing how we can make this economy work because the economy is not working. How can we start talking about discussing about the judiciary or discussing about parliament or discussing about the executive? We are wasting time. Let everybody, be it the CJ, be it the president, everybody should toe his lane or her lane. So that for us to get justice, we want everybody to do the right thing. We want the executive to do the right thing. We want the judiciary to do the right thing. We want the parliament to represent the people because they are not representing us. They are representing their stomach. Because right now, when you pass near the parliament, what you hear from inside is just noise. You hear people murmuring. It's like that is a place where conmen meets and makes their deals. So we are telling the president, as much as the judiciary may not be doing the right thing, let him also lead by an example.
That's it.
By making sure that whatever he promised us, he delivers. He delivers on his promises. That is what we need from him.
It. But which leads me to my next question. Edward, this is where the question comes in. Just before we went on break, and I'll remind you exactly, if you're looking at the misgivings of Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure, he was deemed as a man who never respected the courts. Yes. Up to the saga where they had a one-on-one with the former CJ, Maraga, if you do remember, when he told him, you can't ask me for money, and every time I come to, every time you cut the budget, you say this is unconstitutional and all that. We looked at it, and it's as if it's a similar copy of what used to happen within the courts in the former government as to what is going on in this current government. And I'll point you out to one man called Okiom Tata. When the president was in Kisumu one time, it was in Oma Bay, if I do remember, one time, and Okiom Tata essentially welcomed him to his county and told him, well, this is Busia County, yes. And he told him, look here, we're not saying that whatever you're trying to do for the people of Kenya is bad, no. But you have to follow the law to the letter. And he looked at him in the face and told him, this affordable housing agenda that you're coming up with, your predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, came up with it. I told him it was unconstitutional. We tried to advise him on exactly how he could implement it. He didn't listen. We went to the courts. We presented our case. The courts listened to us, and they stopped it. He looked at him and told him, even you, if you don't listen to us, we're going to go to the courts. We're preparing to go to the courts. And I do promise you that the courts are going to listen to us. As if reading from the same script, that particular issue is what is facing now President Dr. William Ruto as we speak, PhD. Because we're waiting up to the 19th of February 2023 for the courts to make a ruling on SHIF, which is a transformative agenda for President Dr. William Ruto. In fact, that's where majority of his promises stem from. We're waiting up to the 26th of January 2024, for the courts also make a ruling on the affordable housing, which essentially is the contentious clause there, which is on the housing levy. That what is angering the president, and he looks angered, is the courts refuse to lift an order stopping the implementation as they look at that particular case. That is okay with them looking into the case. In fact, is okay with telling his guys who are in this particular departments look into that particular issue. That's why I told you even the housing, affordable housing levy was actually amended. It now wants every other person to contribute. Its modalities is what they're looking for. But is angered by that particular issue that there is a certain ruling that they have not made their minds on, one that looks to lift completely its implementation. That's why I'm asking that why are we angry at a court process that can't we leave them do their job just like it envisions it, so that you work on implementing your agenda the right way by taking advice from the courts? And I say taking advice because majority of critics have said, you didn't learn. Your predecessor used to go to the courts and they really did have a tough time with them when the courts decided we are going to follow the law. But you're not listening. So why can't you amend it instead of fighting them? Because fighting them can't take you anywhere. Edward, that's the question I'm asking you this morning.
I actually want to see it this way. It's
Yes.
not really a fight.
Yes.
Because these are conjoined twins, or they are conjoined. Like
Yes.
Executive, judiciary, and legislative.
As a-
They can, okay. But it's good once in a while for each other to hold each other accountable, or to call out the other. Okay? Yes, to call out the other. And that's what is happening now. Okay? That the president has seen that there is a trend, right, to stop his policy. And I want to commend my good friend here. I'll call him my good friend. Because he's just summed up his statement by saying the president should just keep to his promise. And this is exactly what, and the president is not angered by the judiciary. He's angered by those games that people are playing against the promise he made to Kenyans. Because for a long time, and I know he had said earlier that people don't live in forests. They do actually. There are so many homeless people. Let me tell you, post-COVID, Kenyans are suffering, and you know that. We've never recovered post-COVID. You know what COVID did 2 years down the line? We were down, there was nothing happening. We can't blame that on Uhuru Kenyatta or any government. It was a natural issue, right? However, today, the needs are still the same. They're still dire. The Kenyans need jobs. Right now, and right now, and you all know, the president is working hard to get, even though their jobs are broad, he's working hard to ensure that those young Kenyans who are graduates can go and get work. That's why you see all these foreign trips. And all these foreign trips that he's been making.
Yes,
I think 48.
Edwin, I'm sorry, I'm getting told that they need to change the batteries on your mic. We just ran out. Callistas, I want you to bring in shortly as they work on his mic at this particular point. Gentlemen, because I was getting close to moving away from this issue for the judiciary, because also we do know very well that one man has essentially spoken heavily against what we've seen in the country right now, is one Raila Amolo Odinga, who's essentially said that if they do not stop these attacks on the judiciary, then indeed is going to call in a 1 million man march within the capital, Nairobi, that is essentially going to stop the executive from attacking the judiciary. LSK did call for that demonstration, and we did see exactly the events that transpired on it. Do you think that the opposition should also join in on keeping the executive and I would say in quote unquote, in checks against the judiciary.
Yeah.
Callistus.
I think that what His Excellency Raila Odinga said is nothing but all the truth. We expect opposition to hold the executive accountable. Again, the problem we're having in the country is having a dysfunctional parliament. When you have a dysfunctional parliament, even the judiciary is just working on the mercy of court, because these people can conspire and destroy judiciary. Yes. Once they have destroyed judiciary, they will vandalize the economy. This economy is there because the judiciary can be able to protect the assets. When people can take you to court, when you have looted, like you have taken public land, you can only be punished if you are taken to court. So this kind of roadside declaration of saying now people should move out from the public land is also not good for the country. So I want to advise the country that going forward, we must have a working parliament. And how can we have a working parliament? We can have a working parliament by not leaning, just electing the president and you give him majority. That is the most stupid thing you can ever do. You cannot elect me, you give me majority in the parliament. What do you want me to do with the majority? You want me to overrule the executive, the judiciary and the parliament? Or what do you want me to do as the head of state? As we blame UDA or we blame William Ruto, we also need to look at our mistakes. Our mistakes is voting as a suit. We have so many political parties, and every time people run on those parties, but they are ignored. You find somebody is voting for Raila and you vote as a suit. You find another one is voting for William Ruto, he votes as a suit. Your intention is to give this person more power to control you. And that is what William Ruto is doing. So next time, when we are voting, I want to urge the people to respectively vote to protect their interest. And that is the only way we can have a working parliament. Also, when we have a functional parliament, we'll be able to have a functional judiciary and executive. Because judiciary, the parliament will always represent the people if it is well constituted. But the current parliament is illegally constituted because it does not even have that the two-third gender rule, which is in the constitution. Number two, it is unilaterally being controlled by one man, who is William Ruto, because he controls the majority. So we are saying, when we are voting, even if you like me, don't vote as a suit. Don't support me with all my followers. The likes of Kimani Ichung'wah is serving the last term. And the person who is going to take him home will be a woman. And I want to warn him, because he's making a lot of statements that he irritates people. When you irritate people, the time will come. We might, even me, I might vote for William Ruto, but I will not vote for Kimani Ichung'wah. So Kimani Ichung'wah need to watch his tongue, because he has made so many statements that irritates people, and it makes people feel very disappointed of him, because we expect him as the majority leader in parliament to be a champion of the rule of law. And you cannot go to church, you visit church service, and then you start attacking judiciary. I also want to warn the churches in Kenya, because our church has been, the church in Kenya are being used as a platform to do politics. Opposition are using it, even the parliament, the government is using it. So why should we allow politicians to preach in church when we have got pastors, enough pastors and evangelists who are there to preach? So we need to stop politics in the church. Because this kind of, now it seems the reason why Gachagua went to Elgeyo Marakwet is to attack the judiciary and to try to prove a point where he was not given justice at some point. Such a kind of debate, we need to see him discussing about the economy. How can we improve our shilling? Because our shilling is weak. If we can just make Kenyan economy to work, or to stabilize the Kenyan economy, we'll be able to lower our debt will be lowered by a half.
Yes.
So I'm just looking at a situation where, how can we increase production? How can we increase our farm produce? That is the only way we can stabilize our shilling.
Pretty much.
But these people are not discussing about the economy. They are not discussing even their policies.
Yes.
They are attacking others.
That's it.
And they are using churches to do such a kind of things.
Edward, that's how I want us to cap this conversation. And probably you could give us a summary of where we're getting it wrong, because majority of Kenyans are looking at this particular situation, and all of them are having their opinions on exactly what's going on. Which is what I wanted to ask you. Is the approach wrong? Are we attacking this issue from the wrong direction? Shouldn't we silently, knowing very well what these conversations about the judiciary are doing, about the confidence of the judiciary, even Kenyans really now going to the judiciary? That's why, and I'm using your point when you say that it's not every other man and woman sees that at the judiciary who's corrupt. There are others now who've been put in this conversation, because everybody's saying the judiciary.
Yes.
Are we attacking it wrong as the executive?
I don't want to use that word attack, because you see, it's not really an attack. It's a discourse. It's a debate. We're bringing the issue on the table. We are saying there's some information we have. The government has information. The president has, like he said, he has the intelligence. He has information about what's happening. They can listen to these things. And he's saying what we've seen that is happening is wrong, because there is some particular judges. They're not saying the whole of the judiciary. Yes. Even Kimani Ichung'wah, he's not saying all of the judiciary. He's saying there are particular judges that we need to scrutinize their rulings. We need to scrutinize their conduct. What's wrong with that? Even right now, he said rightly that Raila Odinga is planning a march to hold accountable the executive. Is that wrong? So when the executive sees something wrong, they also need to call out those particular things that they have seen. And secondly, my brother said about building the economy. This is exactly what William Samoei Ruto is doing for this country. He's working to build an economy, and they showed the GDP. GDP during Kibaki's time, 23%. Sawa. 2013, 19%. All the way now, when what's his name, Uhuru Kenyatta left, it was at 13%. So we've lost 10% of our GDP.
But do you know the reason?
Just a minute.
Yes.
Just a minute.
Let him clear.
So when William Ruto inherited this government from the former president, and you know the relationship they had the 5 years before was bad. You know, they were not working man to man. You know there was something happening. Yeah. So he was not particularly involved in running government. In fact, his powers were cut down. Even the security was cut down. Ruto was pushed to a corner, right? He had no power to say anything. So all the impunity, all the corruption, all the theft, all these things, the decisions, you see, like even those court orders defying when Uhuru Kenyatta was, all those things accumulated to bringing down the GDP to almost 13%. Lower, it went down by 10 points. Now, William Ruto is working day and night to rectify this economy and to bring it up to par. For example, you see when he talked about production. Look at production today. William Ruto, in his wisdom, looked at it this way. If the main source of issue is food availability and food security, let us invest government time, government money, government everything in production for agriculture. Look at today. And God in heaven has been a blessing to him, because we've had rains like never before. So harvests of food security is ending. And I believe this is the way we should be dealing with issues. Because when people have issues, they're underlying issues in every matter that is brought up. So when we talk about poverty, poverty is underlined by lack of food. So when you deal with the food insecurity, you're dealing with poverty. Sawa sawa. Second thing that is going to start dealing with is stabilizing the shilling. That is why he's saying, I think yesterday's statement, he talked about Naivasha port being a free port, whereby you don't have to travel to Japan. You see the way you go to Japan, Kyoto, and all those other places to buy these vehicles. You pay through the dollar for an air ticket. You pay through the dollar for your accommodation, and you pay through the dollar just to even go there and buy that car. Now that car will be brought to you. That money that people used to use to go, they can save it. Isn't that putting money in people's pockets? Isn't it? Okay? So we are saying the government also, when we talk about industrialization, the industrial parks that the government is doing, the aggregation parks, part of the UDA plan.
Those are stores. Those are not the industries.
No, what I'm saying, it cannot happen in a year. What we are saying, aggregation is where you bring collectively to know, for example, if it's a particular place that does, like in Taita, wasn't it Taita, where the aggregation is about mining and gemstones, isn't it? Those are not stores. That's a place where he'll bring investors so that the money, the production, what we're producing there is added value before it's exported. So if you're mining gemstones, they add value in that aggregation center so that they can sell their products abroad. Thirdly, the creation of employment. Right now, we know so many jobs have been created. Kenya has signed treaties and MOUs. I think there are 48 MOUs, never ever been seen before. Even right now, we're talking about trade. The EU Trade Pact that we signed, the AGOA, the continued discussion on the American trade, and other trade matters that we're discussing. Kenyans are entrepreneurs. The president understands. Majority of Kenyans we have that entrepreneurial spirit. So if we can be able to get market for our products abroad, well and good, and that is what is doing.
We don't have products.
Hold on. Before you say we don't have, what do you mean we don't have products?
We don't have surplus products that we can say we can export.
We are deficient of products. For example, we import 60% of all our food products. Right now, if we stop importing and start growing that food, like soya, the reason why we are buying oil, edible oil from Thailand and all these places is because we don't produce soy and sunflower. So if we have Kenyans to produce soy and sunflower, and there is a market rate in Bidco and other places, they'll buy that, and Kenyans will get the money. So this is just, people should stop politicking. People should stop attacking the government without real agenda, because the government has the heart of the people, and the government wants the best for the people. And the government cannot change mistakes of 10 years, 63 years, 60 years in 1 year.
Pretty much.
Just in 1 minute.
Just in 1 minute. I'll give you 45 seconds because, gentlemen, I want to ask you the final question on this particular issue. There's another issue that I want us to weigh in before we step out of the studio. Callistus, 45 seconds if you can, please.
I'm saying,
yes.
My friend has talked about GDP dropping during the reign of Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
And I want to explain, because Uhuru Kenyatta, when he came to power, is the one who formed all the 47 counties. All the 47 counties, all the 47 county assemblies. And that was the reason why a lot of investment were put into formation of government. And that is the reason why our GDP dropped. It's not that because he was not doing the right thing. So when we try to, when we accuse somebody, we need to have facts. So another thing, what my friend is talking about, production in Kenya is being killed by taxation. We need to do tax reform, because overtaxing people that is not a development. Because William Ruto has discussed exhaustively about taxes, collecting taxes. And that is the reason why Raila Odinga told him, you need to, unafaa ushuke mudi, utoke huko kwa mudi ukae na sisi hapa chini. So we are saying overtaxation is the point, is the reason why production is being killed. And you cannot produce in Kenya. Many people are now manufacturing from Uganda and Tanzania. How can we say that we are going to grow economy if we are killing production?
I can tell you.
And we cannot say we are putting a lot of investment on housing.
One of the reasons, just a quick one, 1 second. Let me just, on taxation, it's very important for Kenyans not to be misguided. Again, I must point out, the issue of taxation, and the president has been very clear. From every 10 shillings we collect, my brother, 7 shillings is going to debt. Sawa. We either go against the debt by not paying, right, and put Kenya in a worse situation, or we can squeeze, tighten our, tighten our belt, tighten our belt kidogo for a few years, so that we are able to bring stability to this country. because there is nowhere the money will come from. There is no other place. The government is broke.
Yes.
Government was broke. Uhuru Kenyatta left the country broke.
The government is not.
When Mr. Mwai Kibaki left, he left the country with surplus, with money, right? We are in debt under Uhuru Kenyatta,
But I've told you
and we are saying debt has to be taken because you have to balance taxation and also things have to be.
Yes.
You have to borrow. But let's not say that the president is overburdening Kenyans because he wants.
Edward,
there is no other way.
Edward, I'll call you.
Taxation is one of the ways to look at the Asian tigers. Read their story. Those people tax their people. It's not a lie.
But they don't include money.
No, they tax
There's no
their
corruption
people.
there.
Corruption will end.
Edward,
and I believe Ruto is doing as much as he can
one of
to
these
fight the
finders,
corruption.
Edward, one of these finders I'll call you when we're talking about the conduct of the National Assembly, especially on contentious issues in the country. You're going to realize they even refused that we audit our data, know exactly who we're paying, what we are paying, and where we essentially are in our debt levels in this country. That's why there's a conversation of, are we really in debt or not? But just before we, I gotta ask you, if you can allow me, please, gentlemen, I gotta ask you this so we step out of the studio. And it was your turn. I want you to take just 30 seconds if you mind.
Yes.
Edward, we do know very well that the president is an advised man. When we look at President William Ruto, we don't see the individual, we see the office. And even in all these policies that he came up with, it has people who are essentially bestowed with the responsibility of making sure that every other step that the ministries and the various departments make are essentially strictly within the legal framework of this country, which essentially makes two men then come to the fore. Before I ask you the final question then, Justin Muturi, who is the Attorney General of Kenya, and we do have also the Solicitor General, who is Shadrach J. Muse. So the men who make sure that every other utterance that the president makes is strictly within legal bounds. Every other project that the president says, I'm going to get into, has the legal framework that essentially will not get us to the courts. In fact, if you look at the offices of these two particular gentlemen, it's full of lawyers and policy makers who enshrine themselves within the law. If indeed we see the Ruto presidency as opposed to Ruto the man, then is it not okay for us to start asking the questions of, what are these two gentlemen doing? Somebody said they had a script. Even as we are where we are right now, this housing agenda was struck by the courts in the previous administration. So if somebody was saying, oh, Mr. President has this particular agenda as his biggest agenda in his government, also the affordable health care, they had notes to refer to so that they constrain the country within the legal bounds. Is it okay for me to ask the same question that other people are asking right now to you, Edward, that if indeed these men are there and they've been installed with this particular responsibility of advising the president on matters law, on his policies and their legality, that it will be almost impossible for us not to accuse the president for not listening?
You see, the president has his own right to take your advice or not to take it. He's the president.
Are you not going to say presidency?
No, listen, he's the president.
But what about the presidency?
But you just mentioned him as the individual.
Yes.
You see, the presidency is the entire government.
And I said, let's not look at him as an individual.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
You see, the people who have gone to court, right? It's not even Raila Odinga. It's not the opposition.
Raila Odinga is also gone to court.
No, wait, I'm saying for this particular matter, it's we know who has gone to court, Okiya Omtata, sindio? And we know Okiya Omtata is a known activist from long time. Like anything government that he doesn't like, he shoots it down. So you see, the frustration that the presidency is going through, it's not that he doesn't have the advice. He has the advisors who are telling him, yes, there's nothing perfect in the world. There's nothing perfect.
But he promised to respect the courts.
And that is what he's doing. But now he's pointing out, you have to allow him, he's pointing out some anomalies within the judiciary that we want to scrutinize.
He has become a prefect of the judiciary.
Because it's affecting his policy. Everybody has a right to protect what is his.
Edward, I want you to, Edward, please just answer this question simply.
Yes.
Edward, I want to put in your shoe just before I cross over to Calista. We have 3 minutes to end the show this morning, but I got to ask you this question, Edward. Your biggest agenda as a presidency is the affordable housing agenda, which, by the way, in the previous administration, he was still the deputy president. When it came to this being a failure, he knew exactly why this failed. And by the way, the courts ruled themselves on it. They said, this particular agenda is unconstitutional based on 1, 2, 3, 4. They're not so clear. They were in the public domain. So when you, as now the president comes back and says, I'm going to reintroduce this particular agenda, in fact, not even reintroduce, continue with that particular agenda, you must have been advised. While we're talking about this, while we're talking about this particular
issue that was raised, wasn't it about the levy?
The
matter in court was not that what William Ruto is doing, His Excellency,
no, it's about
for
the levy.
housing is bad.
No, it's not
That's
bad.
not the issue.
No, it's about the levy.
The issue is the levy.
Yeah, that's it.
And the reason why the president put that levy, because the only way he can sustain without borrowing externally. That's it. But without, look,
Edward,
every other project.
Edward, I agree.
Wait.
Edward, you're not
we're already above the threshold of 11 trillion, 10 trillion for borrowing. So the president knows this is my flagship project, right? And if it's going to consume funds, these funds cannot be borrowed. Because one promise I made to Kenyans is I'll try not to borrow. Sawa. So he said, let me come up with this levy so that, right, instead of borrowing that money, Kenyans can invest that money. Yes, it's an investment. It's Kenyans investing in their country for the people who don't have housing.
That's what I'm still going to ask you. That's what I'm still.
Edward,
hold on.
Also comes up with a fine, like fines for police, like traffic. Traffic offense.
Edward, we don't have time. Edward, we don't have time. I want to answer the question.
Government comes up with offenses, isn't it? Government comes up with VAT.
That's it. That's it.
Government has the power.
That's it. And all those can be contested in court. That's why I'm saying that even when the government comes up with even all their policies, you can actually walk to court today and contest any of those.
Anybody
which
can.
is why this has been considered not once, by the way. This is the second time.
How do you want the government? Okay, can the courts
answer me this
in
question,
their ruling? Can the courts tell the government how they will raise that money?
Answer me this question. Is it a failure?
No, if
is it a failure?
No, what we are saying, if the court rules that it is illegal for the levy, then the same court should tell us where that money should come from without borrowing.
That is not in their domain.
Exactly. The domain for doing that is in.
That's it. Callistus,
judiciary.
Callistus, please, could you answer this question then? If these two gentlemen had the script, I mean, it's not the very first time that we're seeing the housing agenda, and the same reason why it was struck and made voluntary is because the previous government also wanted to introduce this particular. By the way, we should not be calling it a levy, because now on the basis of its administration is a tax. Now you can't run away from it. Are we going to look at J. Mose and Muturi and say, probably, if you did your job, then the presidency didn't listen to you? They say to tenda kifuambele.
First of all, let me tell you.
Yes.
Housing project will not benefit the commoners. That is only my worry. Another thing is that you cannot force people to do investment. You can't force me to support a project of housing which I know I'm not going to benefit. It's only going to benefit me. These people will sell those houses and they will benefit. Politicians have manipulated us enough. So that is the reason why we said we promulgated the Constitution of 2010, we said there will be independence of arms of government. And the judiciary will only serve as a referee, because the judiciary can check the parliament, can check both the executive. But the executive they cannot act as a prefect to the judiciary. There's no law that gives the president power or any authority over judiciary. Another thing I want to say is that we are discussing about paying national debt. I listened to Chimwanjiki, and he said many of these debts that we are paying, money did not go to development. You see? So we are saying if we borrowed money and we put in investment, why are we forcing people now we are overtaxing people to pay debt? Because the money did not go to projects. Because if the money went to projects, where are those projects? Why are those projects not paying that debt? We are expecting that expressway, Mombasa Expressway, to pay itself, because people are paying money there using that road. So if you borrowed money and you put in certain investment, you need to tell us. If you put in houses, if you constructed houses, you should be collecting rent. You need to pay them. If you you pumped money in a certain project like an industry, you also need to be making profit. So the problem of Kenya is we have got a government in power which is telling Kenyans that you need to pay for a debt, national debt, and yet they were in previous administration, and yet they cannot tell you where they took money because they did not invest that money. If they invested, Kenyans are not supposed to pay. And I want to tell the president, don't use tax as the only means where the government can get money. Government can get money from investments. And a government can invest money because whatever little that the people are giving in terms of taxes, it should help you to generate more. They are not doing investment. When you see them in churches, they are just complaining, they are throwing words. They are talking like people on the street, and yet they are on power. So we are saying, if the president is complaining, the opposition is complaining, CJ is complaining, and a man on the street and a man and a woman on the street is complaining, who is going to help the other? So we are saying, let everybody be responsible. The president needs to be responsible and need to be accountable for the promises he promised us.
Yes.
And again, Kenyans need to stop voting as a suit. This is my last statement. We need to stop voting as a suit. We need to embrace all the political parties.
Yes.
Let Kenyans, if you are a sound mind, you need to also, why are you fighting to do nomination in UDA so that you can get a ticket and win an election? All these people are gunmen. That's why they are stealing money. They are going to use it to manipulate nominations. They create a wave, and then Kenyans follow, and we elect them. We must stop. We must find our means on how we can make our democracy work. And our democratic, our democracy will work when Kenyans stop voting for one party. We need to elect people who are eligible, people who can represent us. And that's the only way we can have a working parliament. Last but not least, CTF need to be scrapped off. Because a member of parliament has no structure which enable him to run any finances. And you cannot run finances at the same time you do oversight.
Does it?
Who is oversighting for them?
Does it? Edward, 30 seconds, because after you speak, by the way, I won't speak. Okay. What next from the CJ and JSC based on this?
I like the debate. I encourage the debate to go on. Judiciary, as much as it's a referee, even referees have the other, what is it called? Assistant. Yeah. Okay, so we're not living in a silo. We're not living in a vacuum. So even the VAR has to be turned on now, so that we scrutinize, we look at the judiciary, and I'm calling on all Kenyans.
That's it.
Going by the word of Kome, to bring all these issues to public. If there's a miscarriage of justice for your case as a poor Kenyan, bring it forward. Go to the office of the president, wherever you want to take it, so that we compile all these petitions and take them to
we also expect the executive
and
them.
Tell the JSC now, deal with these things that we're seeing. But at the same time, we also want to call on Kenyans to support the government to implement its plan. Because right now, it's about to school. Bursaries were distributed to counties. Counties have money, right? Things are moving.
Now you see, we are introducing another debate.
We gotta step out of it. Yes.
So, man, the government is doing its best.
Guess what? I'll call this gentleman back again now, because the year is just starting and these questions are going to be answered. And by the way, I'll call Edward and Kalisas back, because the courts are going to make themselves clear on the housing agenda as well. Talk about how they're going to look at this particular issue in relation to the discourse, let me use his words then right there, that has existed now between the executive and the judiciary. He's saying, stop, there's no attack. All these gentlemen are saying we gotta find a way. And Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba. Elijah Charles Kiage. We're joined this morning by Edwin and Kalistas. Take them back online at Lookuptv, the hashtag The Morning Drift. Goodbye. See you tomorrow for another session.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our